Are you seeing this? Oh my word. Woo! 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 This is White Rim Road in Canyonlands National Park. 100 miles of off-road track, slick rock, and big old views. And I rode the whole thing on my first ever bikepacking trip. But would I do it again? Want to see what it's like to cycle this world-renowned permitted route? Then stick around, because we're going to showcase what makes this ride so unique, how to do it yourself, dive into a few of the natural wonders of one of Utah's big 5 national parks, and then I'll let you know if I'll ever do this ride again. But first things first, this 100-mile loop is not for the faint of heart. It's hard. It's gnarly. There are steep ups and downs. It's fully in the backcountry with no cell service or flush toilets or showers. There are drop toilets at campgrounds, but if you have to poo in between, you have to pack it out in a wag bag. Basically, this ain't your mama's century road ride, baby. And while you don't have to be an expert mountain biker to ride it, you should be capable and confident on 2 wheels and ready to spend a few days in the wilderness. You'll have to pedal up about 6,000 feet in elevation, which is pretty intense even if you're not talking about 100 miles of uneven dirt and rock track, plenty of sand and almost zero shade. There are at least 3 brutal, steep, extended uphill climbs that are guaranteed to make you question every life choice you've ever made that got you there.
I don't know what grade this slope is, but it's wrong.
But also a few long, steep downhills as a reward, so that's a bonus.
We just came from way up there and went down a whole lot of switchbacks.
Woo! And you do have to plan pretty far in advance to put a trip like this together, because this route does require a permit if you want to do it as a multi-day trip. So you can't just show up to ride whenever the heck you want and expect to put rubber on dirt. So then how did I, someone who can't plan more than a week in advance, end up with a permit? Well, you can thank my new friend Izzy from Alpine Antes for that. She decided she wanted to ride White Rim months ago, so applied for a permit this summer. Permits open up on a seasonal basis about 4 months in advance of any given season. As in, permits for fall when we rode were available in May. Getting one requires selecting dates, requesting specific campsites, planning a route, and paying a deposit, which all of us who ended up going pitched in on. And permits are very competitive, so if you want to have the best chance for an ideal schedule, i.e. how many miles you want to ride each day, you'll want to make those requests on recreation.gov ASAP. Izzy did not apply for permits ASAP, which is why we ended up riding about 24 miles on day 1, 50 miles on day 2, and 26 miles on day 3. But that's okay, because we still got to ride and had a great time. All 11 of us, mostly women, plus 2 husbands, one of whom drove the support vehicle so we could all play to our heart's content, and one of whom was essentially a bike mechanic. Very handy to have on a long ride. Yes, this ride was supported, meaning one person drove the same route ahead of us in an off-road capable vehicle that carried our camping gear, food, and extra water, which is important because there is almost no water along White Rim Road. So if you're riding self-supported, which I don't think a single other rider we saw was, you'd likely need to cache water before you start, and you definitely have a lot more bags and weight on your bike. And yes, that does mean this isn't a cycle-only route. Cars are free to travel on this 4x4 road too, though it's not paved and a high-clearance 4-wheel drive vehicle is required. So you really don't have to worry about vehicular traffic too much. Besides, those vehicles are going pretty slow and tend to be very cautious around cyclists. But let's talk about this 100-mile ride, hey? Now, we completed this route in 3 days, which may not sound difficult if you're just considering the numbers, but trust me, riding in the desert backcountry isn't like riding on the road.
Oh my gosh, my legs are so tired.
I have met a few folks who have ridden this all in one day, which you don't need a permit for, But frankly, I think those people might be masochists, and I don't ever want to ride with them. We did 50 miles on the middle day, and that was painfully strenuous. So 3 or even 4 days, I'd say is a pretty good place to start. Fortunately, I did make sure to bring plenty of calories for meal times to keep me fueled up, like Tailwind Nutrition Endurance Fuel, Cliff Bars, Packaroons, you name it. And I made sure to bring easy freeze-dried backpacking meals from Farm to Summit, which uses compostable packaging to make meal times quick and easy at camp, because when you've just ridden 50 miles, you do not want to cook. By the way, Farm to Summit's instant oat milk latte and golden milk, my new faves. But if you want more specifics about the gear I brought, go check out my gear breakdown video or blog post, which we'll link to below. Despite being quite difficult though, and my quads being more tired and my sit bones more bruised than they've ever been in my life, it was still a rad experience. I mean, the views, they just never stop. The route is, after all, located in the Island in the Sky district of Canyonlands National Park, the most easily accessible district in the park. The visitor center is just about 40 minutes or so from Moab. There are 2 other districts, by the way. Needles, which you could occasionally spot from White Rim, and it's full of rad pinnacles and structures, and the Maze, which is the most remote. Then there are the rivers, of course, which are their own attraction, the Green and the Colorado, which both meet at the confluence toward the south end of Island in the Sky. All of them are considered primitive high desert, and the whole park, which was established in 1964, is located on the Colorado Plateau. And while each district is unique, all of them were formed by wind and water over what scientists believe are millions of years. And the landscapes here are pretty dang cool, what with the massive canyons, tall mesas and monuments, and miles of slick rock. But sidebar, if you're thinking you want to visit multiple districts in one trip, you should know there aren't any roads that directly link them. So getting from one to another can take between 2 to 6 hours, so keep that in mind. The whole park consists of a whopping 337,598 acres of canyons, buttes, arches, and spires, and the Island in the Sky Mesa specifically rests on sheer sandstone cliffs over 1,000 feet above the surrounding terrain, which is where it gets its name. It's just a big old mesa hovering way up there on top of tons of layers of sedimentary rock. Geologists, fun fact, call it a layer cake, which honestly sounds delightful. But the average elevation here is over 5,000 feet above sea level. See, uplifts and deposits carried on the wind from older mountain ranges built it up, and the rivers and thunderstorms eroded it into the shape that it is today. Like, see how some of the canyon walls have sort of a stair-step appearance, or the needles are in non-uniform shapes? That's because some layers of rock erode more easily than others, and when softer rock gets eaten away, you get exposed layers of harder rock that creates all these funky shapes. On top of that, you may even see pictographs or petroglyphs in the rock that tell the story of how people have existed in Canyonlands for over 10,000 years, though most of these drawings and etchings are found in Horseshoe Canyon and the Maze, not Islands of the Sky. First, there were nomadic hunter-gatherers. Then about 2,000 years ago, the Fremont-era people and the ancestral Puebloans started settling down. But this isn't all just history, it's current affairs, because some of these peoples became the modern-day Ute and Paiute cultures, which still call the region home. And a lot of places in Canyonlands still retain spiritual significance to many of them, including at sites like Cave Spring in the Needles district. So park staff do try to manage sites like these with respect to tribal traditions and wisdom. Oh, and another cool thing you'll find in Canyonlands and a lot of the Colorado Plateau and desert landscapes in Utah is biological soil or living soil. Sometimes it's called cryptobiotic crust. This is super cool stuff because it's not just dirt, it's full of living organisms like lichen, moss, microfungi, and cyanobacteria. They live in the top few millimeters of the soil and serve to hold the soil and sand in place so it doesn't get dispersed and destroyed by storms. How cool is that? They also absorb and retain water, which, as you can imagine, is pretty dang important in the desert. And the cyanobacteria and lichens can convert nitrogen in the atmosphere into a form the plants growing out of the soil can actually use. Rad! But these crusts are super fragile. All you have to do is step on it or ride over it to kill the whole soil crust, which can take decades to recover, if it ever does. So it's really important when you're in landscapes like these to stay on trails and off anything that looks bumpy and crusty and usually a bit darker. And while you're at it, don't touch the little pools and natural rock depressions known as potholes. Oils from your skin can damage the delicate ecosystem that lives in there. But back to the ride. Now, I completed it with this group of rad women, including Megan and Izzy from Alpine Aunties. We'll link to their YouTube channel below, in early November. So nights were quite chilly and days were pretty mild. We got lucky and had a lot of sunshine. Fall and spring are the most popular times to complete the ride because you don't have to deal with frigid winter desert nights or brutally hot summer days, but we still felt very much like we were in the wilderness. Honestly, we maybe saw 8 vehicles max per day and only a handful of other riders, some of which were riding in the opposite direction. You can ride it clockwise or counterclockwise, by the way. We went clockwise.
Now, when you are done riding the White Rim, I highly recommend heading to Moab and just spending a couple days grabbing some vegan donuts, indulging in some hiking and maybe some additional light mountain biking, and probably you should stay at Field Station, which is where we stayed, because A, there's a hot tub, B, there are vegan options on the menu in the little cafe inside, and C, this whole hotel is set up to be bike friendly. So honestly, can't think of a better option. Also, they have a whole gear shop where they carry stuff like our favorite plant-based bike wash. Highly recommend.
So, would I ever do this ride again? That is the question. Tell you what, ask me in 6 to 12 months. I'm gonna need some time for my conscious brain to forget all the pain and difficulty and replace all of those memories with just the good stuff. Also, it might take that long for my sit bones to fully recover. I don't know. That ride was hard. Next time I'll spend more time training. I think that would probably help. After that though, yeah, I would ride it again. I'm getting those permits early though, so I don't have to do more of this like 50-mile-a-day nonsense. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to do that again. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you have more questions about the ride, drop them in the comments. Always happy to answer. Then check out some more of these dope mountain bike videos. I definitely think you're gonna enjoy them. Then get on your bike and wander on.